Hi, this is Laurie from Interior Design Community, and we are To the Trade. Hi, Nile. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Just getting into the summer weather. I did my big walk this morning. I'm back to doing it. So I'm excited. I did my normal thing. So my
I'm
my
proud of
routine is
you.
back to normal. And in case
I'm
you
proud of
haven't
you.
been listening, we took a little hiatus as I had a surgery, an overhaul. So I'm working my way back to the things I normally do. And we have an amazing guest. Susan, tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure, sure. The business started as Susan Hayward Interiors, and it started, about 22 years ago. And it pretty much was an offshoot of my husband and I had a photography business called
Oh,
Hayward
wonderful.
Photography. Yeah, and that was always his passion, wasn't my passion, but it had grown and grown to the point where I could take a little bit of a back seat there and follow what I wanted to do. My background is not in design. My degree was not in design. It's more in the public relations field. So I went back to school, got a degree in interior design while my kids were in school, and decided to then pursue that. And it was kind of interesting because when I first got started, I was able to hit the ground running. Unlike some of my classmates who were significantly younger than me at the time, I had already built up a network of people that I knew and business associates. And, so you kind of always, that's where you always start, right? You always start with the people you know. So we were always, we never had a time when I had no clients.
Right.
So as things sort of progressed, and it was primarily residential interiors at that time, and started on a local basis, sort of people in the town, in the community. And I was busy all the time, but nothing that I would say was this, really huge design business by any means. Little by little, as you start to have more clients, those clients then refer you off. And then what would happen after that is they would then refer me to their businesses. So we sort of got into commercial design from that standpoint. It would be, gee, I need to do my office, and this guy's a CEO, so we're able to do an office of a CEO in a big financial firm. Oh, I own a restaurant that we're doing a little rehab for. Can you help us out with that? We now actually do full on restaurant design from start to finish. So the business grew little by little. While all this was happening, Jillian actually had moved out to the West Coast. Her husband was a Navy helicopter pilot at the time, and she was thinking about doing a career change herself and decided to go into interior design. Had always something she always loved. So she went back to school for interior design, and hence, how many years ago has it been now? 10 years?
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, she joined, and she sort of joined a little bit more part-time at first. I'm technologically challenged. She's a techno whiz. So we play off of each other's strengths.
Relatively.
So she would do things like, I was still doing, the basket, bringing all my fabric samples and all my stuff to clients versus the digital mood boards and whatever. So we sort of got into the 21st century, and Jillian helped with things like digital mood boards and, different types of floor plans and all that sort of stuff. So
Sure.
little by little, our business grew. And then fortunately, 2 years ago, she moved to the East Coast. So she then just would have more time and would be able to do this more. So for the last 2 years, what we saw was that even though Jill was a partner in this business, she wasn't treated as a partner in this business by the clients,
Right.
because my name was on the masthead. It was Susan Hayward Interiors. So it was Jillian would, no matter what she would say, what she would do, they would be waiting to see when Susan going to come and check in.
Sure.
So, and this was even from some of our clients that, we took on afterwards. So the more I kept thinking about this, and I didn't even bring Jillian into the initial discussions that were going on in my head. I was like, there's something missing here. And then, what is going to happen at some point when I decide to step back and it's time for Jillian to move on? The time to make that change isn't then. The
No.
time to change is now, when I'm fully active in the business with no real deadline of when I want to step away. You know, as of right now, I don't really have a time frame of when I'm looking to go. So unbeknownst to her, I got in touch with our PR company and decided on doing a name change. And we sort of let her know that we were going to make this new branding thing after. And then all together collaborated and came up with Hayward Design House, which we are thrilled with now. And it immediately changed things.
Yeah.
I feel like from as soon as that name change went into effect, things changed. Even the same people that before may have felt that Jillian was my assistant now started treating her more as a full-on partner in the firm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
I mean,
that quickly?
Yeah. It was so quick. And I think it was, like Susan said, a natural change. I was always that person behind the computer. For our East Coast clients, for our West Coast clients, you know, I was always the person there. But, you know, I could only go so far as at the bottom of my signature, it always says Susan Hayward Interiors. So, you know, she's always going to be that principal designer. So I think it was kind of a natural change when I moved here, and then clients start seeing my face more often in person. You know, maybe Susan won't drop by one day, maybe it's me and coming to check on things. But I think even with our vendors and that sort of thing, it's definitely, I think, made a huge change that quickly.
This completely fascinates me because, you know, when I first started in this industry and I first, you know, got into interior design community, and I'm sure, Susan, you can validate this, like the thing that people always recommended was graduate from your design school, you know, if you're going to work for someone else, but even then claim your URL with your name. Like it could be, you know, whatever your name is .com or whatever your name is, interiors or studio or design or one of those words, but like Nile Johnson design, Nile Johnson.
Yeah. Put your name on it. Yeah.
Whatever.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, do that immediately, get your socials, get your this, do that before you've even started your business. And I would even say that's been the go-to since as far as I can know it. And and it's really made me think, you know, Nile and I had a podcast with an attorney, Wendy Estella, and we were talking about contracts, employee contracts, licensing deals. And then we just sort of organically got into legacy businesses, which is why we wanted to have you guys on the podcast. Because it really was fascinating because that has been what everyone is taught. But doing it that way, I can't tell you the designers that have come to me privately and said, when I grow, when I hire an assistant, when I have a junior designer, when I've got 5 junior designers, the clients still all want to talk to me. And I feel like they're not the same thing, respecting the team and the same way. And I wonder if that knowledge or that principle that we've sort of all said, this is the standard, this is what you should do, building it as your name, is maybe the wrong tactic for growth. You know, it's fine if you're the individual one designer and you're always going to be, because I know lots of designers who are literally love that sweet spot of being the only person in their business. But we have to think about, you're building a business that maybe you want to sell it someday. Maybe you want to grow. Maybe you want to change in a way that you can do something a little different. Maybe you want to do color. Maybe you want to do, you know, commercial. You know, how are you setting yourself up to have the least amount of problems to navigate? And I know a lot of designers who did, you know, brand as something other than their name. And the school of thought was, maybe don't do that, you know, when I've been in this industry. But I'm wondering if maybe that was actually the smart plan, you know, for anybody who wants to grow this or sell this someday, because it's really hard to sell a business that is built on your name, your face, you only, or even to grow, whether it be adding your daughter or having just more designers work for you. And the fact that you said that happened almost instantly with the rebrand. Wow. I mean, don't you think that's crazy, Nile? I mean,
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. It's really interesting. I wonder if but I also wonder if it's just both. I think what they did, I think it's a conversation, honestly, that starts in the schools.
Mhm.
If you're educated traditionally, or if it's a conversation that starts with, yourself. You can do it both ways. I don't think it has to be an either or. I think it's, we
Yeah.
start with, Nile Johnson Interior Design or Susan Hayward, and then you think about, what do I want? What You stop having these. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the moment of the project, what we're doing right here and right now, and you allow yourself to really think about your future and what is going to happen, almost like they did. And what do I want that to look like? And what will that be for me? What will the legacy of my business be? And I think that's what we can do. We can have both. We can think
Right.
about the now, and we can think about the legacy of the business too, and make plans for both. I
So
think.
One
Susan, in questions about that are so you did, when you did the rebrand, and I'm assuming you had to like new everything, new logo, new web
Yeah,
presence, what
right.
did that cost you? I'm curious
Sure.
about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the first thing that I just want to stress is that because Susan Hayward Interiors was a brand and
Right.
we
Mhm.
have a presence,
Mhm.
and we had gotten the business to a really good spot where, if you Googled our name, there's a lot of listings there.
Right.
There's a lot of
Right.
information. So what do you do about that?
Yep.
Right.
How
Yeah.
do you do the transfer to make sure that whatever name you choose,
Mhm.
Yep.
that's going to come with you?
Ties together.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Talking to our web people as well as our PR people, it was sort of decided that we had to keep the name Hayward in there, that
Right.
was very, very important, that we couldn't come up with a different name. Now, Jillian goes by Jillian Scheibel, her married name, but she's Jillian Hayward Scheibel. So, as much as the ultimate would have been to completely remove the name from it, that would have been probably for what we would have liked to do a better way, but we really couldn't because we already had a hold with that in there.
Right.
So the first step was to find out what we could use with the name Hayward in there. And then we sort of went from there and branched out and had our web people
Now
help
that
out.
is
PR
super
people.
fascinating.
That was smart.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
As smart as that is very smart, but you're lucky in terms of like, this is your daughter and you still like this name.
Right.
This is an industry where, when I'm thinking about it from the perspective of designers, there's 75% women. What if this is your married name? What if this is your
Right.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Those are things
Right.
too that, like, as you're starting this business, things could change, and
Yeah.
like what, and how does that play in what you want to call your business? If that's your ex-husband's name, you don't necessarily
Yeah,
want to be
right.
tied to that for the rest of your life, but
Yeah.
you might have to be because you've built up so much SEO.
Right.
I'm thinking about the new designer right now, thinking like, I'm starting my design business. What should I name it?
Mhm.
Like, how are they, maybe this is something you should play out in your head too, of like, these are the possibilities. Do you think it would have been easier if it wasn't tied to your name?
I don't think we would have had to make a change if it wasn't tied to my name.
Well,
Right.
I also think that I think the reason why so many designers go by their name, interiors design, whatever it is because it's such an intimate job that we have,
Yeah.
right? So like when you're referring someone, you don't say, oh, why don't you go call Hayward Design House? You say, why don't you go call Susan, or why don't you go call Jillian?
Right.
Like that's how it's passed along. So I think that it makes sense. It really is a tricky thing because I think
Yeah,
it does
it
make
really is.
sense to have your name there because that's what people are calling you when they're referring you out.
And
Think about
believe
your
me,
business.
people have always said, that is like, you can build. I mean, obviously there are people who have built a business on their name, like Martha Stewart, and that's her ex's.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's
Right.
Martha Stewart,
Right.
but I wonder, is Martha Stewart the exception, not the rule? And would it be easier to be building a business? This is something we should be thinking about from the school level up, that, based on what we know as designers, what that makes, how that makes sense in, getting all that SEO, because you're, like you said, you're building it from the very beginning. you know, you want to build it on that foundation that you're not going to have to pivot too much. And I think the name that you chose was really smart because it can go a lot of different ways, number one.
Exactly. Right.
But it's
Yeah.
also like, you're also lucky that it's like the person that came in is also your daughter, not just another designer who's completely not related to your name. And
Right.
I think about Bunny Williams, who, like I said, brought in
Yeah.
you know, that kind of situation. And so I'm just thinking like long term for a designer, if I want to build a business and I know after 30 years, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to want to get out of it and I want to sell it. Do I want to build that based on my name? It's a really tricky question, I think now. And you're right, how much that impacted you. How much did it impact you financially too? I'm just curious about that part.
We did this so low budget.
Yeah.
I cannot even.
I like that.
Yeah, we started out by going to our PR firm and asking them like, what would the cost be for them to help us? And we went, oh no, thanks.
Yep.
But they were amazing in all of the, you know, the marketing and changing things, but the actual like getting a logo, like that sort of things.
Right.
Are the things that we were like, ooh, so Jillian went on Canva and two of us sat there while she was on Canva tweaking things. And we had done a website refresh about 3 years ago. So we had a little bit of stuff that were kind of new. We had a couple of new fonts that we had used in there. So we took a little bit of that, a little bit of the color from that, and then a lot of Jillian's, you know, ability on Canva, and a lot of trial and error, sending things around to a bunch of different people and saying, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this?
I think the reason why we didn't like go all in is because we wanted this to feel like a natural transition. We didn't want this to be like, we are this new brand.
Right.
We wanted it to just say, this is the brand that we still are. We're just kind of giving it a new name just so that, you know, it reflects more of how we work. So we never
even sent out an email blast to our
like
clients. All of a sudden our name changed.
Yeah.
And they started writing the check to someone else.
I don't think that that's a bad strategy. I think sometimes slipping it under the radar and it will be familiar. Like I would think based on where you came from, where you are, it's familiar enough. It doesn't sound like a big change.
Right. Yeah, we kept all the same logo colors, all of that, like website. We just kind of changed out some of the copy. So we wanted it to really feel sort of more of just almost like a refresh or a reflection of what we are, not this whole new brand.
And we did have a lot of things already with our PR company from Susan Hayward Interiors that they were able to, I mean, they were wonderful doing like swapping of things and making sure that the transition went the right way. And I think that if you don't have a PR company, it would be a whole lot harder because they were wonderful throughout the whole process.
Right. And I'm sure your web development too. Like
we have a web company that we work with that, you know, they manage our website. So we went to the same company that we use that manages our website and had them help us through the process. And the way that works is like, you know, you get so many hours a month of that you either accrue or don't accrue. So it really ended up not really being anything that was this huge financial, you know, kind of thing. It was sort of like the hours that are all part of the contract. And they did everything like switching our email addresses and making sure that any type of archival things, if, you know, anyone who Googled Susan Hayward Interiors would all automatically go to Hayward Design House. If you Google Hayward Design House, all the information from Susan Hayward Interiors would come up. So they were really good about making sure all of that got managed, and they're continuing to watch our SEO and make sure that all of that stays the way it should be.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
We
exactly.
still haven't even gotten business cards done. We went to High Point in April and we went like, oops.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, like most people are, you know, stopping. Like, I didn't even bring business cards this time.
I know.
Found this company called Dot, and you can bring a bracelet, and like I can just put it up to someone's phone, and it gives them all my information.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was like, this thing is, you know, it saved me so much time.
For sure, I know. We always forget them anyway.
Yeah, you do, and then like, or you forget them in the hotel room, even if you do.
Exactly.
Or they're buried in your bag, and you're like,
yes.
Oh,
Little
can't
doggy
find
eared.
it. Yeah. So that's exciting. Now, how did you feel about that, Jillian? Was it like you said you immediately got different, interactions, and that has got to be incredibly rewarding because you're like, hey, I'm putting in these hours,
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
make those
I mean,
someday.
I feel like neither of us have much of an ego when it comes to that at all. So we don't care about like, well, I did this. We don't care about that at all.
No, but the respect from that,
yeah,
from
definitely.
everyone else, and that they don't need to go over your head all the time. That must feel
Yeah.
so much better.
That's it. And like so many times, and this drives me nuts when clients or vendors or anything refer to my mom as, oh, but your mom said this. I know she is my mom, but it feels so demeaning in a professional setting.
Right.
So a lot of times, like if clients say, oh, well, I was talking to your mom and we were, thinking this. And sometimes it just makes me immediately go, oh, like
brought back down to your teenager level or something.
Yes.
And
yes, like the angsty teenager.
Your mom's friend talking.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that whole part of that change was really nice because I just always refer to her as Susan just because I'm used to typing emails and whatever. So it always catches me off guard when like vendors or installers or whoever is just, oh, your mom's going to be here soon.
You're not alone on this. I have to tell you, I know so many businesses that involve mother-daughter teams, and this is, they all do this too. All of the daughters refer to their mom as their mom's name because especially at work, because that is who she is at work, and you have to, because you're not going, hey, client, my mom's going to call you later.
Yes, exactly. And, I think a lot of people don't think about it in that sense. We have this one vendor who was saying, it's okay, you can call her your mom. And I was just like, I'd rather it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice thing because again, it is this intimate, they know us so well, they know about our families. So I think it's just like overlap between the professional and the personal. So it gets a little bit muddy, but I do think it's just really nice to be able to go in and it gives me a lot more confidence because I always felt like I could go so far as to always be under that Susan Hayward name. Right. So I think with clients, just even doing presentations and stuff, it gives me a little bit more ownership into what I'm doing as well. So yeah, I think it's just been a great transition.
Even like we have a very set structure for the way in which like we bring clients on right from the beginning when someone calls. And we always, once COVID started, we did a whole lot of change, as did everyone else. And we started all of our introductory consults were done via Zoom, and we've continued to do that. And before it would be, we always try to do them together, but sometimes schedules don't always allow it. And if I was not being part of one before with a new client, they would be looking to see when they were going to meet Susan. Whereas now it doesn't matter because it's Hayward Design House. Jillian is the only one they see. And then eventually I pop in somewhere. It's not strange. They're not feeling like they're missing something or someone.
Right.
And Jill brought a really good point about the personal part of this. And we talk about this all the time. It's that what we do is very, very intimate. Our clients, they know me, they know my family, they know my how many grandchildren I have. They know, because for us to go into their home to learn about their family, it's sort of important, I think, the same way that they know that we also have similar things, like we come from, we have families too. We know what it's like when the kids are, you're having a bad day because the kids are running around, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So that is a blessing and a curse when it's your daughter, because then all of a sudden they know her children and that whole thing. And I think that's one of the things that happens when it's your mom, or to me they'll say daughter. We also work with like businesses that a contractor and his son, and so we try very hard to do the things that we don't like done to us and refer to people. One of our restaurant owners is a family. It's a father and his two children, and the same thing, we don't refer to them as dad or whatever. So
sure, I love that. And I love the name too, because it gives you so much flexibility, I would think, in you know, you could go in a lot of different directions from here on. You know, I mean, maybe Jillian, you want to do a licensing line and with a brand, or, you know, you don't know where you, or you want to do a product line, or you want to have an e-commerce store, or you want to do whatever, you know, whatever. It gives you some flexibility that sometimes when you hear, you know, person's name, interiors, person's name, you think about the job they're doing and not all the other things that they could do too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business in interiors. That's not just one, it's not just service.
Yeah.
It can lead into lots of different directions. So I think it was a really smart move, like to give you even the flexibility to have different ideas too. I mean, and did you find that? Did you find it opened up your mind of like, hey, we could do different things here too?
Yeah, definitely. But I think that we did it at a smart time, not only because our dynamic and the way that we worked was changing with my move here. I think our business is growing also so fast that we kind of hit it at a time where we felt like, okay, we might be at this stage where those things are sort of now on the table. And so I think that that was just all part of that same thinking, and just kind of putting us at a level where now we do have so many more opportunities.
Right. Absolutely. That's so exciting. I just really think it's a really neat idea and a really cool transition. I think that you are really onto something. Do you find that in the dynamic of working together that you have very similar, is the design process and the design materials, is it more Susan's style, or are you transitioning into having your own voice as well in the design business?
Yeah, I think that's yeah, this is a fun one. We have like could not be more opposite in style.
Oh, this is good.
Everything.
And yes. So, but
in a great way.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah. But I
right.
think that that's always been, this is not anything new. I think that just the more that I started, as Susan mentioned, I started just doing technology stuff for her. And that's kind of how I started working with her full time. And then doing more of the design, I think it was just such a natural progression with us. But because I was on the West Coast for so long, she's been on the East Coast. When I was on the West Coast, I'm like, if I have to look at one more hydrangea or one more blue and white and gray room, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like,
no,
if
no.
one more I want a blue house, I'm going to go crazy. So we have very different like color. I love warm tone. She likes cooler tone. Like we are totally opposite. Yeah. But I think that because we're so different, the way that we do our processing and thinking, because I've started with her, I didn't come from somewhere else. It's always been similar in that sense. So we always start and work the same ways, but the way that we think about things and even problem solving is totally different.
Opposite. Jill's black and white. I'm Technicolor. It's like, that's, you know, she thinks she comes from a science background. She's a scientist. That's her background. She was a marine biology major. I've always been doing something PR or, you know, something where it's the creative, thinking about all that sort of thing. But one thing that I have to say, and this is, I'm so glad we're doing this podcast and not the how is it working together as mother and daughter, because we've done like 12 of those. Honestly, we've done 12 of those. And the one thing people like, they want to find almost animosity between us. It seems like what happens when you don't get along, or what happens, Jill, when you don't want to go to work one day and like, can you call in sick? You know, we work so well together. There is no ego between us. And if there's ever a problem, and either one of us could have made a major mistake, it's usually like, well, that stinks. Let's just, how can we fix it? Like, well, you know what? You have a lot on your plate that day. It's nobody's fault. There are no faults. There is no blame. So we're very, very much in sync working with each other. And because we know each other so well, we also know how to get strength from each other, you know, how to pull from Jillian's strengths, which are my weaknesses. So that is only a benefit to our clients. And
I think so too. I
would our clients something that I would never have even thought about putting together.
Right.
Yeah.
really is a huge benefit to them in the end. And it has made our business grow because it has transformed us from being a East Coast designers where, you try your best to make everything a little different, but they're not quite, where we're kind of going outside of the box a little bit and making it just a little bit more fun and funky. We just did a cool new restaurant in Plymouth that is just, we're so proud of, and it's just so fun and so interesting, and it's so not East Coast feeling, overlooking the Mayflower and Plymouth Harbor. You would think it's going to be the most traditional place, and it's not. And so all of that, I think, is because of this dynamic that we're able to do together, where we're able to pull from each other's strengths.
I love
Yeah.
that. I would think it would. I would think it would give you, and I would say that typically, that would be the case with anybody who has a mother and daughter too, because I would think that, especially in today's day, daughters aren't working for their mothers if their mothers aren't, a person they could work with. You know what I mean? There's just too many options. I mean, you could have just you would just go into, like, my daughter and it reminds me of like a similar dynamic. She's in the sciences. I'm been in marketing, sales, PR my whole life. So we would work very differently, but you have to have like, sort of a mutual respect, a mutual sort of thing to work together efficiently anyway. I mean, that I don't think daughters would come in if they were like, oh gosh, working for my mom, she's gonna just boss me around, tell me what to do all the time, and the dynamic is gonna be all about her. It just doesn't make any sense. And I would think that you're bringing, Jillian, like a California West Coast vibe that would be very refreshing here. You're seeing it here all the time. I'm in New Hampshire, so I get it. Like, you're starting to see it come in. You've got these classic New England homes, but you're starting to see that, I hate to say, it's like a more refreshed modern farmhouse style that California was so big there, that, or even the rustic bohemian boho style stuff come here a little bit more, so it must be a good thing for the business too, to have an interjection of new ideas, new direction.
It is definitely. And I think that it's always important, most of our projects now are East Coast. So all of this to say, like, you still need to have a sense of place, right? Like, we're not going to be designing somewhere that looks like it belongs in Miami that's here in Boston. I mean, we still want to have a sense of place, but I think being out on the West Coast for so long, not only was I seeing different things, all of the sustainability features out there are so much different than the East Coast.
So much different.
So what I'm used to seeing and what is standardized there is not here. So I'm like, there's a better way to do this, or let's introduce more natural materials in here, or, so a lot of it is not just style based, but material based as well.
Yeah.
So I think that
at your site, you had a lot of like biophilic, sort of,
right.
And I love that. And believe me, I do associate that with my West Coast designers.
Yeah.
The East Coast designers absolutely do that too. But I feel like the California scene has really embraced sustainability in a different way, so that must be fantastic for you, Susan, too, to see that come into play.
Well, and you mentioned biophilia. One thing that we have tried to do is, first of all, change and make our business be more sustainable, and try to teach our clients more about resources and extending resources, sustainability. And biophilia is another thing that we were very much into the whole neuroscience of design and your home and how it feels. And both of us have recently been certified in the neuroscience of design.
Oh, I know. I know them.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you're familiar with the whole
Linda Kafka and
exactly.
I love Linda. She's so great. I'm actually working with her now. They have had a parting ways, Mike and Linda. So
yes, exactly,
gone in a direction, and I've known Linda for a long, long time. So
she's amazing. She's just
so great. Isn't she? She's just she's brilliant, and So I've been involved with her for a long time, and we're going to be doing some stuff at High Point together
Oh, really? Awesome.
So yeah,
We did,
we'll
I
see
spoke
you
at High
then.
Point last- Yeah, I spoke on neuroscience of design at High Point last in April on a
Yes.
panel there at Odette. And
Yes.
it was very widely received. It's just such a new field as far as
It's
you
new
know,
but old,
great
right? So
into
it's like
us.
it's
Yeah.
new because we just now recognize it, but it's something designers have been doing forever. They understand how
For sure.
patterns go together and how what looks, you know, you think of the world of design is a designer just looks at something and they're like, no, that's wrong. It needs this
Mhm.
needs to be over here, this
Yeah.
needs to be over there. That, and then they look at it and they're like, okay, yes. And that was like an intuitive version of this neuroscience design, because you're able to know like that's what that looks like, and that's what I respond to. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, it's exciting that you're taking this on. I didn't know that you guys were connected. So that's exciting, but I'm kind of wondering, how did you decide that that was a direction to go in here in New England? Because I wonder if people are responding to that.
That was actually an interesting, I was asked to speak on this panel, maybe, I don't know, January, and High Point was in April. And I thought, why was I did not have a certificate in neuroscience of design.
I thought you,
No,
I know they went
no,
to
it was
Boston.
something just
must
because
have
our
gone.
designs just normally have so much of that. And
Right.
it was that whole feel. So I don't like to do anything unless I'm really fully committed to it. And, you know, as soon as I had that opportunity, I was like, well, I'm speaking on this, and there are people so much more knowledgeable than I am about it, and they could be sitting in that audience. So I need to learn everything I possibly
Oh gosh.
delved into it with both feet, and I found Linda and the whole project and the whole neuroscience certificate. So I got on the wagon, and I was just finishing that course, and I finished it, I think,
She
like
will load
4
you up with
days.
work.
Yes, I think I finished it like 4 days before High Point,
Oh
and
my gosh.
was able to then
Wow.
say that I was certified in neuroscience of design. And then since then, it's like, okay, Jill, this is going to be a business thing. So come on, get moving.
And
So
yeah,
she
for
went and did the same thing.
like my science brain, I'm
Oh,
like, Eureka.
I bet you
Like,
loved
this
it.
is what
I
I've
bet it
been
was like,
saying all
this makes
along.
sense.
Yeah.
And you know that I know one of the girls who originally sort of, there are a couple of people who also were on this track with Linda that were just separately that were doing a lot with neuroscience. Lisa Kahn Allen, who's in Naples, she's building a sanctuary place in Naples that's so fascinating. It's helping people and training people about how the science of design comes together from a perspective of like building, you know, sanctuaries for yourself or others to heal people. You know, like her daughter has autism, so she had to build a room that was like her daughter's room that was like not dangerous, but colors she responded to, like to calm her and make her happier, and it really like healed like their family for her to get involved in neuroscience and design. Like each person had, you know, something that was important to them. Like maybe it's a music room that's so important to you. You know, you need to get up in the morning and you need to be able to, you know, spend a few hours playing guitar because that's going to bring you peace and joy. And like how those things interact with color and how you feel, how you respond to it on an emotional level. And it's just it's so exciting to see how this is all linking with our brains. And I do think the designers have known this without knowing it for years. Like they're just like, it will, if you watch a designer, like Susan, you know, you both know, is like, you'll watch them go, this is, and they like literally can't stand it. They can't say, I mean, how many hotel rooms have you been in, or, you know,
Way too many.
Yes.
lobby of something, and you're like, no, why did they do that? That's, you know, and it's just like, and it's almost like you have to rearrange it. I know designers who've rearranged their Airbnbs because they can't stand the way it's working, and they'll literally move the furniture because because they're like, this is wrong and it needs to be this way. I can't stand it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
it's so like internalized, in your head of like, this needs to look this way.
Yeah, I think that it helps just give us like terminology, honestly, to talk about all of the things that we're already teaching our clients. And
Sure.
for me, like again, science brain, I'm like, but here's a study where, this happened, and giving proof and giving examples. It's been really well received from our clients. So
I
we're
bet the
not
restaurants, because they're
Yeah.
thinking like, there's so much you can think about from a restaurant perspective. Like you want people to sit there, but you really only want them to sit there for an hour and a half, an hour and 2 hours, because you want to turn tables over and you want to make more money. So what colors make them feel relaxed so that they're having a good time, but also move them with the chair? How comfortable is it? It's comfortable enough for 1 hour, 2 hours, but you don't want it to be too much, too comfortable. So they spend 4
So
hours
true.
there,
That's
and
so
they don't
true.
leave. It's like there's a lot of like little details that I would think this helps with too, to like how you're navigating each space so that you're helping their business too, from that perspective of like, this is how this should work, so that you're doing what you need to do on the level that you want to do it.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think it also just kind of goes into play that we're not just picking pretty things and putting pretty things together. What we do matters.
right.
And here's why, right? It's not just, yes, it's about function and it's about, being able to use a room well, but how is it making you feel and what are the effects of that? And so I think really being able to communicate that in a better way with, like I said, more examples, and just, it makes people understand, okay, what I'm investing is making a difference in my health, right? And my
Yes.
family's health. It's not just I'm buying this beautiful couch with this designer name. Here are where the materials came from, and here's why. So I think it helped a lot.
It really has. It's helped with so many things. And I think that going through the program, in addition to all of just the vast amount of knowledge that you gain from it, it also gives you credibility. And that was one of the things I really wanted. And I wanted going into High Point. I felt like if someone has asked me to speak on a panel, then I feel a responsibility to speak to that as someone who's more of, quote, an expert in that field. And I didn't feel that I was, because I didn't have the information. And, that was it helped me so much. And it also helped in our business in just about every possible way. And things now that we may have said to our client before has legitimized it, having that for us to say that we actually are certified in the neuroscience of design. All of a sudden, it's not just like, oh, she thinks this is a pretty thing. Like she actually knows that there's a reason why this should be happening. So that's been great.
Yeah, I can't even, I imagine that this was something that, that really added to, and you know what, I wonder if it also, it was a smart move, but I think that Jillian, it also probably used a lot of your skill set too. So Susan got into it first, but Jillian, I'm sure like for you, it was just like, this makes total sense, of course. And for the other aspects of how we can, we can implement it. Have you found like in New England, like that style that people are, you said they're responding to it, but do they get that connection, the neuroscience, or do they get more the sustainability part of that?
Less the sustainability part.
Yeah,
Less the sustainability part.
And I think that's just kind of regional. Honestly, out in the West Coast, I was in San Diego and then I was in the Pacific Northwest for a while. We had to be sustainable because of limited resources, right? It was like when you're brushing your teeth, you don't have the option to keep the faucet running all the time. You have to turn it off. We don't have our own water. So I think here there are more plentiful resources. And so people don't feel that need as much. So I think a lot of it is regionally driven, I suppose. But I think a lot of it, teaching people, and just now in today's world with having so much information at our fingertips to see what's going on in the West Coast, what's going on here, really hearing the buzzword of sustainability all the time. I think people are starting to hear that more. So we're able to talk about it more and really educate more in a meaningful way. But I think the whole science of design part, impacting your health and your mood, has been, I guess, the most meaningful, because after COVID, people really found that interior design was not just, something beautiful, but a necessity for their home, whether they're, changing the function of rooms, or if they're like, I feel terrible sitting in this room all day. How come? How can I be happier in the space that I'm spending more time in?
Right.
So I think all of those things, just globally and, time wise, it worked out great. And our clients are really responding to that.
That is so
Oh,
fantastic.
we don't shove it down their throats, we
Yeah.
don't like go,
No.
we don't go in and say, we're doing neuroscience of
Yeah.
design. It's just there. And even the sustainability thing, we try to even make that be an aside.
Mhm.
Oh, and by the way, this product is sustainable. And oh, gee, did you know that this is made in such a way
Mhm.
versus this other product that isn't? And I don't know if you've seen it, Niles, but like we're finding that the supply chain has just gone crazy again, especially things that are being shipped overseas. I mean, things are stuck again and all that.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
bringing it even more home again to say, getting something that's locally made, you don't have to worry about that boat that it's coming on, that it's stuck in the middle of the harbor. Then they can't get a truck driver to take it. This is made locally. It's an easier transport. It's using less resources to bring it to your home. So I think when it comes like that, when it's hit them, because it's going to be an extra 2 months delayed going this route versus this route, they understand the sustainability a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think shipping times are huge, and that's affecting everyone. I'm even seeing a lot of trade shows become more regional and really focus on that regional aspect, where they're bringing in the brands that are there locally to say, hey, these are manufactured here in Indiana, or these are manufactured here in the West Coast. Like, so it helps with people thinking like, okay, how long is that going to take to get here? Am I going to, wait for 6 months and then it's broken and I have to reorder it? I mean, those are they're legitimate worries. So how you respond to that in a way that sustainability is a selling point is really, it's a good strategy, I would think. Niall, are you thinking that too, or?
Yeah, we kind of always have to say, this is, for me, I'm a very like outdoorsy person, animal person. That's me. So I love it from the sense of this is good for our planet. But I think the reality, unfortunately, is not everybody is, they're gonna say, well, that's great, but I really love this sofa.
Right. Or that price point is so great.
This one is more sustainable, but I want this one. So I think it's more from our standpoint, since we are the ones controlling what we show them, we're able to source what we want for our reasons, but communicate to them why it works better for them and why it's a better choice for them, not just for the greater good. Because let's face it, I mean, a lot of people, they want what they want. And, if it's something that might not be the best choice, we have to really sell it and we have to say, here's why. So I think really following through with why, not only is it, yes, sustainable and great for the planet, great for all of these things, but this is why it's good for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And how do you think that when you're sort of approaching that process, do you talk to your residential clients about that more, or your commercial, or is it just seamless, like everything, this is the design process, this is how we approach? I mean, there are two aspects of the business, doing commercial and residential. Is that more important per se in like the residential side or the commercial side?
We don't really even mention it too much in the beginning. And honestly, from a commercial standpoint, it would be like a kill switch if you mentioned it.
I would think so too. Yeah.
Because they immediately going to think this is going to cost them more money.
Yeah. They think code for expensive.
Exactly.
Right?
So, it doesn't really come up, definitely not in commercial. And for commercial, what we're able to do is, the way we usually do commercial is we're given a budget and we will stay within the budget. Then we do our best to only source materials that we feel are more sustainable. the wonderful thing about doing commercial projects, particularly restaurants, is you usually have carte blanche as to your design. The owner will say to you, here's the location, this is what I want, this is what the menu is going to be. I don't care. I just want people to come in. I want to sell.
Right.
So you can, you have, it's not like going into someone's house and they have, this very set plan of what they want to do. So as long as we have our budget and we stay with our budget, they honestly could care less what we bring in. Once we tell them about afterwards that things are sustainable, they love it. It's a bonus, but it definitely
I
isn't.
think that the sustainability might not be a good sell, but I think the neuroscience part of it would be a huge sell in this commercial.
Yeah.
Because they definitely understand customer turnover. They understand like, hey, what is that? How do I want people to respond in this space? Even if it's a CEO, he has a, where his desk is positioned, how people come in and how he's being treated. It affects a lot of, how you lay out that space and the materials that you're using, and can give very different vibes. It can give like that approachable, come in, my door's always open. It can give, I'm a man of business and I am the master and commander situation. Like you can do a lot with design to change how people feel in a space and understand. I would think for the commercial clients, you understanding how that actually comes into play would be a huge, I know if I would be sold on it. Like you understand how to keep how to keep people, talking in this space and not feeling awkward when they walk in and they're waiting to be seated, and how to navigate the table so I can get the most amount of tables in my space and people still have room to move, and you can make sure that the seats are comfortable enough for the 2 hours, but not for the 5-hour stayers that want to just sit there and drink all day. These kinds of things where you're operating in a small space. I just went to Portsmouth this weekend. We went to Orr House and we had outdoor on the dock and in Portsmouth, and you have like just these tiny tables with these, and then really they don't have a lot of room back there. There's only like room for 5 or 6 tables, and they had used stools. So you're like, with no back support, you're thinking like, how long am I going to sit there with this little tiny table and no back stool? You're probably turning people over a lot faster because there's just not going to sit there. But if you have a limited amount of people, maybe that's, going to be more of an apps crowd with a glass of wine versus a full dinner because it's just not enough space, things like that.
Yeah, especially in restaurants or in, other commercial buildings, you have to talk to multiple different people that work there and that have worked there to find out, how does this function? Like, what is the flow like every day? What is your turnover? Are people staying? You want them to stay longer? You want them to stay shorter? What is, because you're creating not just a beautiful space, but you're creating an experience for them in the commercial space. It's not just you're walking in and it's someone's personal taste. They don't care. You're creating an experience for them from the minute they walk in, and you want, the person to be overcome with some feeling of, I'm in XYZ, right? Like I'm transported. And it has to work with the workflow of the staff. And where do the waiters walk around? Are they going to be walking over by you? Are you bumping into that? Just, it's all connected to create that experience.
That's so fantastic. What are your favorite tools that you're using these days for organization? Are you using project management? Are you using,
So we actually have been starting to do some research more into AI and different other programs.
Yeah.
And
thanks to you, Nile.
Yes.
When we came back to our panel, that's what we wanted to learn about. So we came back with all kinds of good information on that.
So
nice.
Came back with so many notes of like, we need to check out all these programs because as our business has been growing so much, and with the name change and everything, we're like, we need better organization. We need more automation wherever we can do it, because it's just the two of us. So just being able to, have somewhere that is like a centralized location for all of our notes so that we both know what's going on at every client at any point of time has been really crucial. So we are in the process of changing some things over right now. We use Studio Designer, and that's kind of where we keep all of our billing and all of that goes through Studio Designer. But the rest we have sort of like Google Sheets and stuff that we use centralized for the both of us. But as we're growing, we are trying to use that in a better format. So
Right.
It has-
Yeah.
Has to be easily, we both have to easily do things. Like I found that, I do a lot on notes so that
Right.
way the notes is shared. And then we can kind of go back and forth with that. So, but again, as Jill said, we're at the point right now where we need to bring in AI a little bit more not a little bit more, we have none, to start incorporating AI for some from different things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think every design business should be thinking of it as like a little bit better version of Google. It's just like, I do a lot with notes myself. I love notes too. And I do a lot with Google Docs. I love both of them. And I will find that I use Bard and Chat GPT as an app easier. This is where I came up with my questions for you today. I literally like copy and pasted your bio a couple weeks ago. And I was like, this is really the direction I want to talk about. I want to go legacy business, and then give me 25 questions that based on their bio and their website. And not all of them are great because you have to go through them and like go, no, I'm not asking that, but it gives you an idea of like, and it cuts down time. I've even been able to like have conversations with different designers. Like I'm planning something in Paris, and you can take like different versions, like like Google, Gemini, Bard, whatever. They are linked to Google, so they transfer to Google Docs really easy versus ChatGPT. So if I know I want it to go into a Google Doc, I always use that one because I can make this into a Google Sheet and it will do it, and it will make this into, that's kind of thing. And it saves so much time. I'm less interested in it for the images. I know, there are a lot of people that are jumping on board. I think, I'm already seeing, if you go onto like Instagram, you like have to identify it as an AI image, which thank God they're doing that. But I guarantee you,
So glad they are.
Yeah, because who wants to go through their feed and literally only see AI images? Nobody, nobody. So
the thing that scares me about AI in that sense for design is we haven't used it to show clients anything with AI yet, because our fear, we've had this happen before where clients will see something, if we show them from a magazine or something, just for inspiration purposes. There's been a couple times where our client will say, I love this, but I need that chair, like that one.
Right.
And
That's
in
real trouble
that
for
chair
AI.
doesn't exist.
That one doesn't exist. At least if it's a magazine, that exists somewhere in the world.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I worry that it will create these issues where we're like trying to find this unicorn piece that doesn't exist. And, someone gets so focused on the one thing they see that they love. So I don't know. I'm hesitant in that sense.
I know. When you try to recreate that in reality, there are so many nuances that are going to change each one of those pieces that then the client's going to come back and say, wait a minute, this is what I got. And this is what you showed me. So not really this.
Well, right now, I think that it's in its infancy and you're not able to like all the products that are in there are figments of imagination. They're just like little bits and pieces, but eventually you're going to be able to feed it in. You're going to be able to say, here's a URL for all these different products, put these in a room that has this vibe and that vibe. And people are worried that that's going to affect interior design. And I'm like, I just don't buy it because, at the end of the day, who wants to do all you do? They don't, it's just the design and picking the products is just one aspect. And you still have to have that knowledge. Client isn't going to be able to know, here's the 20 products I'd really want in this space because I've sat on those chairs. I know that brand. I know that they're reliable, and then you put those in and AI can come up with a direction, but who knows how to actually achieve that and who wants to do the physical work of calling the vendors, getting the orders, getting it all in, moving, that's still always going to be it. That's always going to be a job that no one wants to do except designers. You know what I mean?
And it is such a personalized experience that I think one of the biggest things that people love about it is not just the product that you're getting at the end of the day, this beautiful space. It's the experience of like this personalized design to you for your family. Like, I know that couch is not going to work for you because you have 2 dogs, and I've seen your dogs and I see that they jump on your couch, and so I think that they want that experience, that personalized touch that AI is never going to provide. They're never going to be able to have, call us and say, hey, where's our chair? Do you think you can call up the vendor and locate it right now? It's the whole experience of it. You can't replicate.
It's still a
So
service business at the end of the day. So that service aspect can't be really replicated by an AI, but it can be a tool. And so I think you made, Susan, and both of you have made really brilliant additions and moves here. Like, I think the name was really smart. I think that the introduction of science and design was really smart. I think the introduction of AI is and good procedures is really smart. I mean, those are all really savvy moves in this industry. I mean, I think that a lot of people are hesitant and afraid to make those moves, and it sounds like you guys really jumped in. You're the type of people that jump in and learn and go forward, make the plan and go forward with it. Is that true?
Well, it is. And I think that we've also love speaking about that. And that's something that we're hoping to be doing more of, and to sort of share our enthusiasm for this, for the space that we're in, and for the ways in which we've been able to grow our business and help some other designers that might be doing the same thing. So we've also incorporated like that as part of our business right now, which is a little bit more of that. We both have, up until I'd say a year ago, have done everything we possibly could to keep our face out of anything. We hate to have mistakes, and we don't really like to be in front of anything, but we've sort of embraced it a little bit more because it feels like we have a story to tell. So we are trying to get the word out about neuroscience and get the word out about sustainability, and the fact that you can rebrand your business, and your business is not going to go south. You just have to learn the right way to do it. And also to kind of teach people that you have to go to the people who know what they're doing to help you through this whole process. And, that's one thing, that through the interior design community that you do, and, through your speaking stuff now that you've done. And those are things that we all need to embrace as designers, and know that we are always learning. Right. And, we're always learning from other people. And then whatever we've learned, we want to then be able to share to someone else to make it just a little bit easier for them.
I love, you have to know how much we love that because that's why we even have a community. It was all based on sharing information, learning from each other. You've probably been in the industry long enough to know, like, when I started interior design community, it's now almost 12 years old. So 11 and a half years ago, I think I was just coming in from a different industry and not aware of, like, I was naive in knowing that there was like this whole gatekeeping thing that was going on in the industry that I didn't even know anything about. So I was just like, this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. And I learned this new tool, and I was just sharing, and people were like, what? Just sharing information. And then it just became, that's how interior design community grew, was because people were not, I think at that point, used to people just freely, this is how you do that. Here's a link to that, but it's a newer, like the newer generations kind of get it. And it's not as much gatekeeping. It's not, my daughter calls people like that, bootlickers or gatekeeper, and I was like, I don't want to be a bootlicker. I don't want to be a gatekeeper. So I love it. And but I was really naive that in this industry, it was like, keep all your secrets. Don't tell anybody. This is how you do things. And I think we're all better for it, because you're not the only one teaching. You're also learning too. Like, you're going and finding out how to do different things that you wouldn't know anything about if there wasn't somebody else out there teaching too. So it goes around and comes around often. And even people with lots of experience in design, need that sometimes, because like you said, there's always something new. So you might not know, like you're not technical, and you might have, you know, someone come on board who has a different way of knowing how to do things. Like, and they're like, oh, it's easy to do a reel. It's easy to make a little video edit. It's easy to do Canva. Like it's super. So, you know, I think that's really great too. Nile, do you think that if you have, you know, you have younger children, do you think that any of yours are thinking design down the road? And do you think that this was, you know, something that you'd be thinking about someday?
I can't even get them through school right now. So it's like the middle schooler is sending me through it. So I don't know. She's very artsy.
Maybe if they graduate.
Yeah, she's very artsy. I don't know. Could be, but I do think, you know, you guys made a very, very, very smart decision. I think it was definitely the way to go. It's given me a lot to think about, frankly, because I think, you know, just from the standpoint of what you said, Laurie, it offers you an opportunity to go in so many different directions instead of just interiors. I think it was just smart. And what a chic name, you know, I love
think so
the
too.
name.
I think the
So
name
chic.
is so,
Yeah.
like, I envision, like, it makes me think like you could have a store, you could have like,
Yeah.
you could,
Oh my God,
there's
so many
much
things.
you could do with the name.
Yeah.
Like the name
Yeah.
is, like, it could be a little brand on pillows, and, you know, I would rather
Everything.
buy from
Oh yeah.
like a,
Yeah.
like
I love
And
it. Keep these ideas coming. No,
I know, really.
and you know, Laurie, honestly, I would have to say too, I don't think that name has to be tied to the way they did it. It doesn't have to be tied to a family name anymore.
It
I
doesn't.
don't think.
It
Like,
really
I think
doesn't.
it can live on. Like, I think you can have somebody else come along and they have no blood ties,
Right.
and they can carry that business on and on and on, because you'd be happy to, because of the way it's titled. I
It's
think
got
it makes perfect
alliteration.
sense.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah. Very smart.
Yeah. Well, it was lovely having both of you. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us.
Thank you.
You know, if there's anything else that we'll be putting in, make sure that we'll put in your web address, your socials, so that everyone can follow you that's listening. And we hope that you come back and visit us, and we see you soon.
We would love that. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.